Right, then it's Wednesday the 30th of July, and even with the sniffles kicking in, there's no slowing down when it comes to Celtic news. Let's just crack on because there's a ton to get through today and plenty going on around the club. From the B team's wild night in the Lowland League to Champions League qualifiers, transfer movement, and all the little bits in between. Buckle in, folks. Let's start with the Celtic B side. A bit of midweek madness unfolded last night as they went away to face civil service strollers. Second match of the Lowland League campaign, and it finished in a 6-goal thriller, 3 each. Now here's the mad part, all 6 goals came in. The second half, nothing in the first and then bang, the floodgates open. Thomas Hatton, or Tam as the lads call him, grabbed a brace, and young Emmanuel Obediwe chipped in with one as well. That put Stephen McManus's side on 4 points from a possible 6 to start the season after opening the campaign with a win over Broxburn Athletic at the weekend. Not a bad return at all, but definitely some defending to tighten up. Now, while we're on the topic of the Lowland League, a bit of news drop that could affect Celtic B next season. The Scottish FA has confirmed a restructuring from next season onwards. The Lowland League's getting split into 2 regional divisions, East and West, to sit alongside the Highland League. So instead of just the current Lowland and Highland, set up at Tier 5 of Scottish football, there'll be 3 fifth-tier leagues. For Celtic B, assuming the club remains in a setup, that would mean slotting into the Lowland League West. It's a fairly niche story, maybe not headline grabbing, but it actually makes a lot of sense. There's always been a geographic imbalance between the Highland and Lowland leagues, with far more clubs competing in the south, so this reshuffle might ease some of the travel burdens and bring a bit more balance to the pyramid. Alright, moving. Things over to the European front. The Champions League qualifiers are heating up. 5 ties wrapped up last night, and with that a few more names drop off the list of possible playoff opponents for Celtic. We saw Kazakh side FC Kairat, not exactly household names, get past Finnish side QPS. Dinamo Minsk went through knocking. Out hammering Spartans from Malta. Slovan Bratislava handled Zrinski Copenhagen, Soov Drita, and Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda if you're feeling continental, brushed past Lincoln Red Imps. What does that all mean for Celtic Well? It means we can officially scrub a few more clubs off the potential opponents list. We already knew Copenhagen and Red Star couldn't face us in the playoff round due to seeding rules, and now with their results confirmed, their next opponents are also off the table. That includes Malmo and Lewis Palmer's old club, Lech Poznan. So if you are dreaming of Celtic versus Palmer in a bizarre twist of fate, forget about it. Not happening this year. Still plenty of action to come though. There are 7 more ties tonight in the Champions route, and by the end of it we should have a fairly solid idea of who's in the hat for Monday's draw. One thing that is confirmed now, both Basel and Sturm Graz will be unseeded, so those 2 are officially in the mix as potential Celtic opponents. I know the phrase definite potential doesn't make a lot of sense, but you get the idea. They're firmly in that unseeded bracket we could end up facing. At this point, it's shaping up to be around 10 possible unseeded opponents for us. Some tough ones in there, no doubt, but nothing that should rattle us. Even with all the transfer uncertainty and squad gaps, this is a Celtic side that should feel confident heading into the playoff round. But let's be honest, the real fun is going to be picking apart that draw once we know exactly who's in it. That'll be tomorrow's chat. Now shifting gears to transfers because there's been movement rumblings and the usual dose of speculation. Let's start with Marco Tilio. Reports out of Austria claim that Celtic are holding off on letting Tilio leave for Rapid Vienna until a replacement winger is signed. So while Rapid might be waiting to welcome him, they might be waiting a while. Possibly until the 1st of September, depending on how the club's recruitment goes. There's even chatter in the Austrian press that Rapid could turn to other targets if Celtic don't budge soon. And honestly, that wouldn't be surprising. As for Celtic's side of things, it's completely understandable. Brendan Rodgers doesn't want to weaken an already thin wing department. That doesn't necessarily mean Tilio is suddenly in his long-term plans. Far from it. But with so few natural wide options left in the squad, letting him go now would be daft. You don't want to end up in a scenario, and I won't say it out loud, but you don't want to find yourself needing him in a Champions League tie because of an injury crisis. You know what I mean. And speaking of wingers, let's talk Hyun Jun Yang. There was a lot of noise around him earlier this month. Norwich City was said to be interested, but that's now cooled off. They've pulled out at least for the time being. Legia Warsaw. still appear to be in the picture. Brendan Rodgers has commented on it, acknowledging that Yang might be feeling a bit unsettled. He's been here a couple of years and still hasn't nailed down a regular starting spot, which is understandable. But Rodgers also seems to believe Yang can be a real asset this season. Not a starter maybe, but someone who can make an impact, especially surrounded by better players. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I hope Yang stays. There's a player there, just needs the right moment. On to potential incomings now, and the Jakob Brüm saga continues. No real new movement on the go-ahead Eagles playmaker, but there were some interesting quotes in the Dutch media from their general manager Jan Willem van Dop. He was speaking on a Dutch sports show and made it clear that the club value Brüm quite highly, reportedly seeking around $7 million for him. Now, considering their biggest sale ever was something like $4 million, that's a big jump. Van Dop basically compared Brüm to Ruben van Bommel, who recently left AZ Alkmaar for PSV in a $15 million move. His argument was, if Van Bommel is worth that, why not Brüm for $7 million? Bit of a stretch maybe, especially since Brüm is still listed at half that on transfer sites. But it just goes to show how transfer inflation is hitting clubs at every level. 5 years ago, a player like Brüm probably would have cost $3 million tops. Now it's nearly double just for starters. But here's the twist. He's not a winger. He's been labeled that way in the Scottish press, but all scouting reports and match footage show him as a central attacking midfielder, more of a number 10. He's played wide on occasion, mostly on the left, but that's not his natural game. So it does beg the question. If we've already got McGregor, Hatate, Bernardo Holm, Iwata, and Paulo Bernardo all competing for 3 midfield spots, why are we pursuing another central player? Could it be that Hatate might be on the way out? We don't want to even entertain that thought, but something about this move doesn't quite align with the squad's actual needs. Elsewhere, remember, Michel-Ange Balikwisha. That link seems to have gone completely cold. Belgian media haven't reported a thing in days, and it's looking more and more like that ship has sailed. He was a left winger anyway, not the right-sided player we desperately need. And that brings us to perhaps the most pressing issue in the squad. The right wing. It's a glaring gap. We lost Liel Abada, who was our main man down that side. And other than James Forrest, who we all love, but let's be honest, is winding down his career, there's just no real natural option there. There was early buzz about Isaac Jensen before he ended up signing for Nice, but since then radio silence. And if Brüm's a number 10, not a winger, then we are no closer to solving the issue. While we're on forwards, here's a quick one on Lui Munteanu, the Romanian striker from CFR Cluj. Reports from Romania say he's a hot topic over there, expected to leave Cluj this summer. Celtic have apparently tabled a bid just under $7 million, while Cluj are holding out for something closer to $15 million. It's a big gap, sure, but not unbridgeable. If we can get that down to somewhere around $11 or $12 million, I'd say pull the trigger. His goal-scoring record is solid, and honestly, having a real striker up top, a proper number 9, would transform our attack. As for centre-backs, the one that keeps popping up is Jamai Simpson-Pusey from Manchester City. Word is we're ahead of several English championship clubs in the race to bring him in on loan. City want him to get first-team football this season. He's outgrown the academy setup, and that opens a door for Celtic. We've got a strong relationship with City, and that might help us get the deal done. Whether there's any chance of a purchase option included is doubtful, though. City usually demand big money, even for players who've never played in the first team. So if this happens, it'll almost certainly be a season-long loan. Lastly, there's been a bit of social media chatter about Stefan Bajcetic from Liverpool. Word is he might be available for loan after spells with Salzburg and Las Palmas last season. But honestly, this one smells like a classic rumor mill job. No reliable sources backing it, just Twitter chat that gained traction. And when you see someone like Mark Hendry, who tends to be on the money, coming out and saying there's been no contact between Celtic and Liverpool, that's probably all you need to know. So yeah, as it stands, we're still in need of a centre-back, a right winger, a left winger, and a striker. The clock's ticking. The Scottish transfer window shuts on Monday, the 1st of September, just after our match at Ibrox. The deadline's been moved up this year too. Closes at 7:00 p.m. Celtic Park time. None of that staying up till midnight. Nonsense. There's also the UEFA deadline to register players for the Champions League playoff round. That's Thursday the 14th of August at 11:00 p.m. We do get a bit of flexibility though. Up until the night before the first leg, we can register up to 2 new players, but if we want more than that in the squad, we've got to act before the 14th. So with all that bubbling in the background, let's talk about where the squad's really at right now. Because when you look past the rumors and the usual transfer window madness, what you see is a group that on paper has some real quality, but is also a bit short in key areas. Brendan Rodgers knows it. The fans definitely know it. And if the board didn't know it already, they'll be hearing it loud and clear. Now, let's just be brutally honest. We're still looking for a starting right winger, a striker that brings presence and goals cover and competition, a centre back, and probably another left-sided attacker too. And you can't ignore the Champions League ticking closer by the day. The season opener's around the corner, and we're heading into Europe with a squad that feels 2 or 3 signings short of really being ready to compete. This isn't panic, not yet, but the window's not going to hang around waiting for us to get it right. Take the centre-back situation. At the moment, we're banking heavily on Cameron Carter-Vickers and Mike Naraki to carry the load. Both solid when fit, but we've already seen how vulnerable we are if one or both go missing. We've got Liam Scales, who's dependable, and Gustav Lagerbilka, who still hasn't really settled. And there's always Stephen Welsh, but there's no escaping that we need someone to step in and immediately raise the level. That's where someone like Jemai Simpson-Pusey becomes interesting. Still young, still raw in parts, but highly rated by City and looking for a proper challenge. He's not coming to warm the bench. He's looking for minutes, and if Rodgers is serious about giving him those, it could be a tidy bit of business. Then there's the striker conundrum. Kyogo Furuhashi is a star, no question about that. But he's also got a very specific style of play. And when that's not working, whether due to injury form or how the opposition sets up, we don't have a like-for-like or even a contrasting option who can come in and offer something different. Oh, and don't say move Maida central, because we've tried that. And while he runs for days, it's not the same. Montiano would give us that alternative profile. He's strong, he scores consistently, and he's still young enough to develop. The price might seem steep, but if you want quality up front, you're not getting it on a bargain bin budget in 2025. And if there are French clubs circling, that should tell you all you need to know about the caliber of player we're talking about. Now back to the wings, and this is where it starts to get a bit frustrating. The Bada departure left a gaping hole on the right, and despite all the noise early in the window about potential replacements, we're no closer to filling that void. Forrest, for all his loyalty and past contributions, shouldn't be relied on to carry the load anymore. Yang's still inconsistent, and while Rodgers sees something in him, you can't base a Champions League campaign on maybe he'll kick on. The silence from the recruitment team here is deafening. We were linked to Isaac Jensen for about 5 minutes before he ended up at Nice, and since then, it's been tumbleweeds. Every week that goes by without a new name emerging just ramps up the pressure. It's hard not to feel like we've spent a lot of time chasing players we were never gonna land, or dragging our feet on ones we actually wanted. Jakob Brom's the perfect example. We've now reportedly had multiple bids turned down, and yet we keep going back. Clearly we rate him highly, and fair enough. He looks like a real talent. But if he's not a winger and you've already got a packed midfield, then what's the plan here? Is it another project signing someone to compete long-term with Hatate or Bernardo? Or is it a last-ditch attempt to make up numbers out wide? It just doesn't quite add up unless something bigger's coming. And here's where the fear creeps in. Not panic, but that quiet dread that maybe the board still don't fully grasp what this squad needs. Rodgers came back with promises of backing and ambition. He's spoken openly about wanting quality over quantity, and that's the right mindset. But at some point, quality has to arrive. You can't talk about raising standards while recycling the same squad depth we've had for 2 or 3 years, especially when other clubs around us are strengthening. Rangers are making moves. Hearts and Hibs have been active. Even clubs like Aberdeen are adding numbers. Celtic can't afford to stand still. What's more, the timing of everything is critical. We're about to enter the thick of the domestic calendar. We've got a Champions League playoff coming, and the transfer window shuts just 24 hours after we go to Ibrox. That's not ideal. If we're serious about hitting the ground, running in all competitions, then the time to act is now, not in the final hour of deadline day when options are limited and prices are inflated. And here's another point worth considering: the UEFA deadline. That registration window for the playoff round is closing fast. If we want to bring in more than 2 new faces before the first leg, then at least one of them has to be through the door by Thursday, the 14th of August. That gives us just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks to sort out a winger, maybe a striker, and ideally a defender too. It's doable, but only if the wheels are already in motion. If we're still in the identifying targets phase, then we're already behind schedule. Let's shift briefly to midfield again, because it does seem like there's an odd focus there from the recruitment side. Between McGregor, Hatade, Bernardo Home, Iwata, and even Odin Thiago Home, when fit, we've got numbers and quality. So why the obsession with adding another attacking midfielder like Broom? Unless someone's leaving, and please not Hatade, it feels like we're addressing a position that isn't the most urgent. Maybe it's forward planning, maybe it's squad rotation, or maybe it's just a player the scouts believe can be passed up. But meanwhile, the right side of our attack is practically bare. And listen, none of this is to suggest it's all doom and gloom. We've still got a strong spine: Joe Hart, Carter, Vickers, McGregor, and Kyogo. That's as good a core as any in the league. The young talent coming through is exciting too. Rocco Vada's had a good preseason, and Ben Summers has shown flashes of potential. Even guys like Bosun Lawal and Daniel Kelly could play roles in certain fixtures. But relying on youth to cover glaring holes in the squad isn't a strategy. It's a gamble, especially when the stakes are so high this season with another crack at Europe and the title race always breathing down our neck. The positive here is that there's still time. Not loads, but enough to get things moving if the board really want to. And Brendan Rodgers has made it clear he doesn't want bodies just for the sake of it. He wants players who can step and start games and elevate the team. That's what's needed now. Players who don't just fill a shirt but genuinely make us better. Let's not forget either, we've sold well in recent seasons. Joda Abada, Yaku Makis Starfelt. These exits brought in good money. The club's not operating from a position of weakness. There's room to invest, and fans aren't asking for marquee signings every window. What they want is smart business targets identified early and ambition matched by action. And while we're added a word on the atmosphere, the fans are doing their part. Preseason attendances with strong merchandise is flying off the shelves, and the backing on social media is as passionate as ever, for better or worse. But what the supporters want now is belief. They want to feel like the club's aiming for more than just domestic dominance. Because let's be honest, we've seen what happens when Celtic coasts into a season without strengthening. Europe exposes you quickly. One injury here, one tough away day there, and suddenly everything feels fragile. So what happens now? Well, we wait. We see if the links to Munteanu get serious. We monitor the Simpson-Pusey situation. Maybe another winger emerges from the shadows. Maybe Celtic pull off a late deal that none of the press saw coming. We've done it before. But time is ticking, and every day that passes is another missed training session, another chance lost for new signings to gel with the squad. There's been progress in part. There's no denying that. The appointment of Brendan Rodgers brought fresh energy. The resigning of Matt O'Reilly last season was a signal of intent. And there's clearly been effort behind the scenes to modernize recruitment and analytics. But effort alone won't win us matches. The pitch is where it counts, and right now the squad needs help. As always, the hope is that the club's just keeping things quiet, working behind the scenes, finalizing deals, and ready to unveil signings when the moment's right. That's always the dream, but the longer the silence goes on, the more that nervous energy creeps in. We've been here before. We've seen windows go stale, and we've seen late scrambles that never quite fix what needs fixing. So here's the ask clarity action ambition. Show the supporters that the club's pushing for more. Back the manager with the players he needs. Build a squad that can handle domestic demands and take the fight to Europe. Because this group has potential, real potential, but it's only going to be unlocked if the right pieces are added. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a bit of chatter gaining pace in the corridors of Scottish football, and it's got the terraces buzzing with speculation. Aye, we're talking about young Miller, no longer with Motherwell, and by the looks of it, already donning the green and white of Celtic. It's not official yet. Nothing's come through the proper channels, but that's never stopped the rumor mill churning at full tilt. Sources close to Fir Park are saying the lad's contract came to a quiet end, And just as quiet like, he's been seen around Lennoxtown. Some even claim he's been spotted training with the boys. Others are whispering he's already pulled on the famous hoops for a behind closed doors bounce game. Now, to be fair, this kind of thing happens at a time in the off season. Young lads looking for the next step. Clubs trying to bolster the ranks with future prospects. But this one's got a bit more meat to it. Miller's always been a tidy player, quick on the turn, clever with a ball at his feet, and no shy of a challenge. He made a decent impression at Motherwell, and folk at Parkhead have surely taken note. The question is, what role would he play in Brendan Rodgers' plans? Celtic's midfield is already brimming with talent, but there's been murmurings about some players possibly heading for the exit, and the club's known for keeping the talent pipeline flowing. Could Miller be brought in as a squad option? Maybe for the B team at first, with a long view on first team integration. Some fans are drawing comparisons to previous low-key signings that blossomed into first team regulars. Remember when Forrest was just a skinny lad from Ayr? One Celtic supporter was overheard saying at a pub near the Gallagate, "Look at him now, a club legend." Maybe Miller's the next one in that mold. Still others are more cautious. "We've seen plenty come and go," said another punter, shaking his head. No, every prospect makes the grade at Celtic. It's a different world from Motherwell. There's also the wee detail that neither club has made any formal statement. No social media posts, no press releases, no cheeky emoji-laden hints. But that silence only fuels the speculation. After all, we've seen this dance before. The quiet arrival, the leaked photo, the sudden welcome to Celtic announcement. It's the modern way. Then again, there's always the chance it's just a trial. Celtic often bring in young players for a look under the lights, especially when they're out of contract. Maybe it's just a bit of training to keep the lads sharp. Maybe it's a gesture of goodwill from one club to another. But maybe, just maybe, it's more than that. If Miller has indeed joined the boys, it would be a big moment in his young career. The pressure, the expectation, the glare of the Glasgow spotlight, it's no for the faint of heart. But if he's got the talent and the grit to match, he could be one to watch. For now, it's all whispers and glances, nay confirmation, nay denial. But in the world of Scottish football, where every pub's got a pundit and every WhatsApp group's got a mole, that might be all the fuel we need. Keep your lugs open and your eyes peeled, as the next Celtic signing might have just walked out of. Fir Park with a dream in his boots and a point to prove. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.